Mm-hmm. Welcome to a Week 9 edition of X's and Omar, alongside Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln. Welcome to a big week. A big week for these Dolphins. We're going to break down the upcoming game against the Bills. Who are the big keys going to be? How are they going to make up for the big injuries that happened against the Patriots? And, of course, take all your Twitter questions. Just use the hashtag XOmar. So, there is no shame in a loss at Foxborough. Those things happen, certainly to the Dolphins, a lot. But 36-7 was not great.
Humbling experience for the Dan Campbell-led Dolphins.
Certainly. So what does this loss mean?
You know, the startling thing to me that started from the very beginning was I didn't sense confidence from this team going in. I watched their warm-ups like I do all the time, and I watched their, trying to get emotionally charged, and some guys were into it, some weren't. And you could tell that the stage might have been too great for them. I didn't expect that from a Dan Campbell-led team. I expected that from a Joe Philbin-led team.
Right.
And it makes me wonder how much of that is a mirage, what we saw in those two-game winning streaks against the Texans and the Titans. They had a confidence level, an inner belief, a conviction that we are way better than what we showed earlier. Now, facing the Patriots, I know, is an arduous task because the Patriots are the best team of the decade. Patriots have Tom Brady, have Bill Belichick. It was on a short week. But they came across like they were not prepared.
Right.
They came across like they did not believe. They came across like they didn't have any conviction that they had a chance in that game. And that's exactly how they played.
So I think maybe you revert to their old ways. Again, that short week is a big deal. You're going on the road. This was a big loss. But are you reading too much into this one game?
You know what? It raises questions for me in terms of Dan Campbell's preparation. I didn't like their game plan. And I know it was on a short week, but I'm sorry. Your game plan was whack. I didn't like the fact that they didn't stay committed to the running game, even in the second half when they were trailing. Yes, it was a two-deficit score, but you are not a good team when you do not run the ball. Are not a good team when you do not run the ball. Yet you ran the ball 13 times, gaining 15 yards. There was no commitment to it, especially when your first run gets 8 yards. Stay committed to it. Eventually, it will get going. Patriots, what they did is they put 8 men in the box, and they backed up their cornerbacks, they backed up their safeties, and they said, you know what? If you want to run, you can go ahead. You're going to get 3 yards a pop, and it's going to force you into difficult situations. But ultimately, the Dolphins said, nah, we won't run. We'll just pass. Right. And I just think that, and even Dan Campbell agreed, that is a recipe for disaster for these Dolphins.
Well, let's take our first Twitter question. It comes from Dexter. Is Dan Campbell a good game planner? It's one thing to be, we're going to be aggressive and we're going to be physical, but just being aggressive and physical is not going to be enough to beat good teams.
Especially when that team says, okay, you're not going to be physical, and you can be aggressive all you want, but it's not really going to matter to us. The challenges with the Patriots are, they're going to make you make mistakes. They're going to wait for you to make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, whether it's a missed tackle, whether it's a poor throw, whether it's a holding call, they're going to capitalize on it. You are going to ultimately beat yourself with when you're playing the Patriots. Now, every week is not the Patriots. And if you look at the Dolphins' schedule, Buffalo, certainly not the Patriots. Philadelphia, certainly not the Patriots. Dallas, hell, definitely not Patriots. Jets, Baltimore, Giants. You don't have a tough challenge again until you face the Patriots again at the season finale. But Dan Campbell has to do a better job of finding the weaknesses of his opposition and attacking them. I didn't feel like they attacked New England's defensive line, which I felt was the weakness of that team. I didn't feel like they attacked the defensive line effectively enough. This week against the Buffalo Bills, what is the weakness of the Buffalo Bills? I feel like it's their linebacking core. Will you put the tight ends and the tailbacks in position to attack those linebackers? I'm not so confident.
Has Jordan Cameron had a game where he's had more than 5 targets? Probably not.
Yeah, he's heavily targeted. And here's the thing about Jordan Cameron, which I find very intriguing. There are chemistry issues between him and Ryan Tannehill.
Okay.
No tight end has been targeted more than Jordan Cameron, and he only catches 50% of his passes.
Okay.
4 of the passes targeted to him are interceptions. Only 2 receivers have a lower, only 2 tight ends in the NFL have a lower catch ratio based on their targets. So there's clearly some sort of issue going on between them, and hopefully it can get resolved, fixed. But I don't believe that they're using their tight ends properly. You saw it come alive in the Tennessee game, and then it sort of disappeared on you again. That is their best formation. That is their best scheme. They didn't use that against the Patriots, and they certainly have strayed away from it.
Obviously, this team needs to just move on from that loss. But there are lingering effects, namely the fact that Cam Wake is now done for the season.
Possibly his career.
Maybe his career.
Possibly his career
Dolphins
with the Dolphins.
Career, certainly.
Possibly his career with the Dolphins.
So how will Miami compensate now?
Just to get that out there, since I said that, but people have to understand is Cam Wake's on the books for $8.5 million next year. There was no guarantee that the team was going to honor that anyway, because you cut him, you get that $8.5 million in cap space back. Cam Wake has become a situational pass rusher. I'm not sure you're paying a situational pass rusher $8.5 million, even if he was healthy.
Right.
Cam Wake is not. But to address how you compensate for it, you don't.
No.
It's tough to replace a Pro Bowl player, caliber player, a guy who is a one-on-one threat every time he lines up and snaps, a guy that a offense has to game plan for. You don't just replace that. Now, in fairness to Derek Shelby, he was playing more snaps than Cameron Wake because Shelby was the first and second down defensive end. He's the better end against the run. And Shelby will play and do well against the run. The question is, can he be a pass rusher? And I don't know about that. I haven't seen that throughout his career, even though he's got 5.5 sacks in his career. But you also have the options of Terrence Fede, Chris McCain, young linebacker, well, converted defensive end now, who the team has a lot of confidence in. They've seen him dominate practices. They just haven't seen him do it in games outside of the season opener against the Patriots. And now it seems like Chris McCain will be unleashed.
Well, Derek Shelby might have 5.5 sacks in his career. Cam Wake had 7 sacks through 7 games. In fact, over half of them.
No. He had 7 sacks through 3 games.
Through 3 games.
He had 1 tackle.
2.5 games.
Yeah.
If we really want to get there.
He started heating up. He was playing great. But this is what happens when you have 33, 34-year-old players.
Right.
They suffer these types of injuries. It takes them longer to get healthier. This is the reality of what the NFL is, which is why you see all teams try to stay under 30 years old. The fact that 3 of the Dolphins' better players, Brandon Albert, Brent Grimes, Brandon Albert, Grimes, and Cameron Wake, are over 30, that's not a good thing. But it is what it is. Hopefully, the other 30-year-olds can stay healthy. But Cam, it's a tough loss, but now somebody's got to step up.
Quickly, is your boy McCain ready for this?
I hope so. My name's on him.
Yeah.
And I've seen too much talent. What Deion Jordan was supposed to be is what Chris McCain brings to the table. The problem that he has is Kevin Coyle didn't like him. Kevin Coyle didn't trust him. He struggled to learn the defense. He struggled to learn his position. Now he's been moved to defensive end, and they're basically going to say to Chris McCain, go get the quarterback. Get after the quarterback, and we'll see how effective he is.
Let's move on and talk about this big game between the Bills and the Dolphins. They're always, you don't necessarily circle the biggest games at the beginning of the year because you don't always know exactly how it's all going to hang down. But this is it right here. There's a big difference between being 4-4 and 3-5. And can I pat you on your back? Because you said this from the beginning that you were going to wait until after the Bills game to really assess the job that Dan Campbell has done. And this is where we're at.
This is where we're at.
Win this game. You're 3-1 under Dan Campbell and feeling pretty good about yourself at being 4-4.
Lose it, and you're 0-4 in AFC East.
Oof.
Lose it, and you're 3-5. In the wild card is open.
Right.
It's wide open.
Wide open.
Wide open. If you want it, come get it. Now, one of these teams will raise their hand and say, "Let me get it." It'll be the Buffalo Bills or it'll be the Miami Dolphins. I think the Jets are going to get that other wild card spot. Now, somebody has to step up and play better. Dolphins have injuries. Juwan James, Cameron Wake. So do the Bills. They've got a quarterback who's injured. They've got LaShawn Shady McCoy who's injured. He's got a lot of rest right now coming off the bye week. The question is, who is ready and who wants it? And that's why I wrote in today's Sentinel. To me, what happens on Sunday will indicate to me whether Dan Campbell is a realistic and viable option to become the Dolphins' head coach, not interim coach, head coach. From this standpoint, if you can create a game plan to take on Rex Ryan and take on all those challenges, their defensive line, how aggressive they are on defense, how physical they are in the run game, Richie Incognito, if you can take the mentality of getting your troops charged and have them play like they played against the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans, it's a similar caliber opponent on the road.
On the road.
And Ryan Tannehill has never beaten Buffalo on the road. Never. And 3 of his worst games have been against Buffalo up there.
Here it is. It's all out there for him. So, and earlier on, he lost pretty badly to Buffalo. It was at home, 41-14. Why should there be optimism that this game's going to be different?
Because Dan Campbell's here. And because you have a different mindset, you have a different toughness and mentality. I think the mindset that you had with Joe Philbin, where you were a counterpuncher, is never going to work against a Rex Ryan team. Rex Ryan's going to walk into that door, and he's going to punch you in the mouth before you even say a word. And that's how his teams play. That's the mentality they take. When Dan Campbell's team was winning, they took on that mentality. They walked into the door, they punched you in the mouth, and then they wanted to talk it out.
Right.
You have to take that approach with Rex Ryan. And Rex Ryan's no genius as a coach. He just gets his players emotionally charged. He gets them to play tough and physical football. And
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. You have to counter it. You have to punch back. And right now, I expect a brawl, a bar brawl in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Well, without Juwan James, the other big injury coming out of the Patriots game, do the Dolphins have the brawlers on that offensive line to handle those big, tough guys in the Bills' defensive line?
Somebody on the Miami Dolphins' offensive line is going to have to face off against Mario Williams, who is predominantly one of the better left defensive ends in the entire NFL. Left defensive end goes against the right tackle. It's always opposite sides. Right tackle, left defensive end. Left tackle, right defensive end. It's going to be Jason Fox or Billy Turner. See, look at that face. Look at that face. Look at that face. Either way,
right?
You gotta, to quote Joe Philbin, feel a little queasy.
But hey, either way, I mean, prove it. Prove that you can go out there and you can handle these guys.
In fairness to Dallas Thomas, the second time
I hate when the sentences begin with "in
fairness
to
Dallas Thomas, when he played Buffalo the second time around in Sun Life Stadium last year, he was one of his better games of his career. Against Mario Williams at right tackle. If I'm the Dolphins, and I know Dallas Thomas has been a disaster at right tackle.
Right.
I know Dallas Thomas has his struggles at left guard. I know Jamil Douglas has struggled in a starting spot. But I think your top 5 offensive linemen are Juwan James, Jamil Douglas, Mike Pouncey, Billy Turner, and Dallas Thomas at right tackle right now. While Juwan James is sidelined for the 4 weeks because he seems to have a broken toe, some bone in his foot is broken. Right. While Juwan James is out, and you all know how I feel about Dallas Thomas, I think he needs to be put back at right tackle.
Okay.
I think that's the only chance you have for survival.
I guess we'll see. Let's take some of your Twitter questions. David said, who in the Dolphins organization is most responsible for saying we don't need to acquire any offensive linemen? Whose fault is it that they're having to play Dallas Thomas?
Well, Dennis Hickey is responsible for all roster moves, allegedly, and the personnel on the roster. That was a Mike Tannenbaum call. Because you could have put the money in and invested it into finding a quality left guard. Evan Mathis, even though he's not playing for Dallas right now. But you had options and opportunities to upgrade that position. You said, we're good. Reality says you're not.
You're not good.
And
certainly not deep enough.
Until deep depth is an issue. But until that offensive line gets fixed, this Dolphins team will forever be mediocre.
Okay.
And they just choose not to put the resources to it.
More front office questions. Chris asks, if Miami finishes under 500, is there a new president, a new GM, and a coaching staff, or was Tannenbaum hired to lead the franchise next?
I believe that Tannenbaum was hired to be the consigliere for Steve Ross, the guy with the football mind. Well, he doesn't really have a football mind, but the guy with the football connections to hire the right people. And that's what he was here for. I don't think he did a horrible job with the Jets. They made it to 2 AFC Championship games. When's the last time the Dolphins have been to an AFC Championship game? He has so many connections within the agent industry, helps them land big players like Ndamukong Suh, helps them pull off big trades like Kenny Stills. I believe that he's going to be the guy who's going to not only hire the head coach, but possibly hire a new GM.
Okay, but not be the GM in addition to what he does.
No, I just dealing with Mike Tannenbaum and talking to him. Mike Tannenbaum knows he's not a great football mind.
Okay.
And while that might make some people uncomfortable, while he's been in the NFL for forever, he knows he can't look at talent and say, gotta have it.
Right.
That's not his forte. Hire the right people, manage the situation, and then your organization will be good. And I think Mike Tannenbaum is qualified to lead the Dolphins out of the mediocrity merry-go-round.
So what you're saying is he's good enough to be an executive.
He's an executive.
He's an executive and could be an executive for any type of business. He just happens to be an executive for an NFL team.
Correct.
Okay. Finally, more pessimism from Tim. Why trust this front office to get anything right, win or lose?
Oh, you know what? Eventually,
Have the Dolphins is there any reason for this sort of trust that Fins fans should have?
some of the things that I heard that they wanted to do in this offseason, I thought, great. Good eye for talent. Dolphins were all in on Todd Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams were just all in more.
Yeah.
Let's say Todd Gurley doesn't get picked at 10th and falls to 14th, and you have Todd Gurley. Man.
With the offensive coordinator giving the ball?
I don't know, because Lamar Miller is got the third highest yards per carry average in the NFL.
Lamar Miller's not the problem with this team.
The most yards after contact in the NFL, and you're right. The running game isn't the problem with this team. I truly don't believe this team is married, where everybody is on the same common goal, common ground. Everybody's looking for the same thing. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody has the right beliefs. You have to make everything marry. And until you do that as an organization, you're going to be stuck in the land of mediocrity. And as you've seen, whether it be Bill Parcells or Nick Saban or Tony Sperano or Joe Philbin or Jeff Ireland, it was always it just didn't fit well. And it's going to be on Mike Tannenbaum to make this fit work.
We need to move on. I wanted to question, though, a little bit about what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like Dan Campbell and Bill Lazor are married and on
No,
the same page?
I don't think so. I don't think they work. While Dan Campbell is not the offensive coordinator, and he lets his coordinators do their thing, I think Bill Lazor is adamant and determined to pass the ball and to put up one of these fancy spread offenses that just, that's not your quarterback. That's not your quarterback. He is not that dude. and until you get to the point where you realize you are the number 2 team in rushing in yards per attempt in the NFL. Lamar Miller has a ridiculous 5.5 yards per carry average, and it was pretty good before he had his big game against the Houston Texans. Good last year. 5th highest yards per carry average in the NFL last year. Run the damn ball. Play action. Roll out. Move the pocket. Never seen it. Not consistent enough. Change who you are. And it probably is not going to be comfortable for Bill Lazor, but I think he needs to take a step back and let Al Saunders do his thing.
Well, and that brings us to we've got a big game this weekend. Omar, give us 3 strategies. How do the Dolphins beat the Bills?
They've got to copy the Bills' strategy on offense. You know how the Bills beat Miami just so miraculously? They moved their athletic
Misdirection,
quarterback.
lots of moving around. Yep.
Move the quarterback out the pocket. Misdirections, play action. Dolphins defense didn't know where they were coming or going. Move Ryan Tannehill. Make him and I've said this. This is the problem that I have with people who are part of the Patience Brigade and people who think that I'm a Ryan Tannehill critic. There's nobody in this market who said that Ryan Tannehill should be the Dolphins quarterback before I did. I did it in January of 2012 when I looked at his film and I saw how athletic he was and how accurate he threw on the run. That was Texas A&M days. As you saw with the pass to Jordan Cameron last week on the first drive of the second half, He throws a beautiful ball when he's on the move.
Right.
Your offensive line sucks. Let's be real. Let's be real about it.
And you're playing maybe the best defensive line in football.
If your offensive line sucks, your quarterback throws the ball well on the move, you're struggling on offense as it is. Mm-hmm. Horrible on third downs. Mediocre in the red zone.
Your quarterback does not have a great feel for the pocket.
Does not have a great feel for the pocket. Move the quarterback. That's strategy number one. I would also do a lot of screen passes, a lot of bubble screens to try to compensate for the misdirection to try to slow down the upfield end. Now, and of course, you got to get early.
Remember the Texans screamed to Lamar Miller.
Yeah.
The play action to Landry coming across one way, the dip off to Lamar Miller, 50 whatever yards later, it's a touchdown.
You're not going to get that every day because that Texans had probably the worst safety play I've ever seen in the NFL.
But still, that's the type of play.
One, you have to stay committed to the run game, and two, you have to get a conviction that we're not going to stray from it no matter what the score is, because Ryan Tannehill is at his best when the play action game is alive. If you have Ryan Tannehill in the shotgun and he's just back there throwing it and defenses are able to pin their ears back and come after him, it's going to be a long day for you. And I think Dan Campbell is probably the first person ever in Dolphins organization who's ever admitted Ryan Tannehill can't handle that kind of game. That is not his game. And if you stay committed to who you are as a team, try to run the ball, try to be physical, you might win. You might have a chance for the rest of the season.
Right. And it's not that Ryan Tannehill can't put up big passing yards. He just can't make big-time throws all over the field. You give it to guys and make the plays, and then the guys make the plays. The guys make the yards. Yak.
It has driven me insane about this Dolphins organization where for the last 3 years, they've had Ryan Tannehill throw the ball like he's an NFL elite quarterback.
Right.
I mean, like he's the Drew Breeses or the Peyton Manning or the Tom Brady. Like they've got him throwing the ball 70% of the time. Like he's throwing 40 passes a game. Like he's that dude. And he's not that dude. He's not that good.
Right.
He's okay. He's the 18th best quarterback in the NFL. It's statistically right now.
He's good enough if you have enough other
things
great
around
players
him.
around him.
87.1 quarterback rating. 19th best. I'm sorry, I gave him 18th. 19th best quarterback in the NFL. 18th best on third down. The most critical down in all of football. Ryan Tannehill leads the offense. That is the worst third down offense in the entire NFL. Ryan Tannehill. Now, it's not all his fault. It's on the offensive line. It's on the running game, putting him in difficult down and distance situations. Sometimes it's on the receivers. Every single one of his targets have dropped a third down pass. But the burden of the third downs is on the quarterback because the ball is in his hand and he has to make those decisions. Ryan Tannehill leads the worst third down offense in the NFL. Fourth quarter, when the games have to be decided, and I know Dolphins have trailed a lot in the fourth quarter. You know what Ryan Tannehill's position is in the NFL?
Let me know.
31st quarterback in the NFL in fourth quarter.
Right.
There are only 32. There are only 32 starters, and yeah, some backups are ahead of him. 75.6 passer rating. 56.2 completion percentage in fourth quarter, when generally teams are saying, okay, we'll let you pass.
Right.
And 6.6 yards per attempt. It's not good enough. And the problem that we have is we've consistently said throughout his entire career, where does Ryan Tannehill need to improve? Red zone, third downs, fourth quarter. How much improvement have you seen?
None. Zero. All right, let's take some. Oh, no.
Of course, we got a challenge.
Hey, nice catch.
I have coordination.
You're not one of Tannehill's receivers on third down. Yes.
Well, this one is not actually about Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, wow.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. So this challenge comes from Stu. He says, challenge the Dolphins to put the resources in the O-line, 2 first-round picks, a big free agent, plus 2 third-round guards. I feel it's more development.
And a fourth-round guard, yes. It's more development. Okay, that's a very valid point. It's more development. But my problem is when you know that you don't have what you need, even though you've invested 2 third-round guards, where are your problems?
Right.
Your guards. And yeah, you put a fourth round in it. Why didn't you put a second-rounder? When you had Jordan Phillips there at pick number 50, why didn't you go and select a guard? When you know you needed a guard.
anything other than a defensive lineman, really.
Yeah. How much of a factor has Jordan Phillips been this season?
It's been rough. He did have the only sack in the first, 3 games or 4 games that was.
That's
All right,
true.
let's take some more Twitter questions. Matthew asks, is consistency something that can be improved, or will Tannehill always be stuck as the better Jay Cutler? I don't even know if he's the better Jay Cutler.
He's right in that ballpark for second-tier average quarterbacks. Jay Cutler, Matt Stafford, Alex Smith, Andy Dalton. And then, to be honest with you, right now he's probably behind the pack on all of those.
Right.
Tannehill's problem, and as I said it last week, it's the same thing. He'll have his high games where he's throwing a perfect quarterback rating or has a 100 quarterback rating. And then he'll have his low games against the Bills and the Jets where he's putting up 50s and 60s in passer rating. I think he's good when he doesn't turn the ball over. The problem is, now that he's being asked to make more aggressive passes, he's turning the ball over a little bit more.
Well,
and you have to find some kind of middle ground.
And you wonder sometimes, too, because he had early on, 2 really crisp, I think it was like 15-yard passes, one to Rashard Matthews. And you're like, oh, this might be the good Ryan Tannehill today. And then the safety happened, and he didn't throw another good pass the rest of the game. Lenny asks, does Miami need to implement a horizontal offensive attack this week to beat Buffalo?
Absolutely, no question about it. And I think they have the playmakers to get it done. I would love to see Kenny Stills infused a little bit more into this game plan, reverses, screens, bubble screens, quick hitches, go routes. Kenny Stills, I think, can beat this Buffalo secondary, and I think that Rashard Matthews probably needs to be targeted a little bit more on third downs. It surprises me that teams are taking away Jarvis Landry on third down. You know that's Ryan Tannehill's new blankie,
right?
And he's struggling. I think you need to say as Ryan Tannehill, okay, they're taking away Jarvis. Let me feed Rashard Matthews. Let me feed Kenny Stills, and I think that that's the route to go.
All right, we got a lot of questions that you sent to us either here in the chat room or during the show using the hashtag XOmar. We're going to answer those questions for all of you live viewers coming up in just a few moments. So stay on here. But before we get there, it's prediction time.
You know what? I'm going to predict a Dolphins win. And here's the reason.
Shocked.
You are shocked.
Yeah, I'm shocked that
Here's
you are
the reason
doing
why
that.
I'm going to predict the Dolphins win. I do believe that they have more meat on the bone than what they've shown. I do believe that earlier game, that season opening home loss to Buffalo for embarrassing 41-14, just ass whooping, because I can't even find a better word to explain it, is humbling, and I think that they'll go up there and it's like going to that bully that knocked you out. You want another shot at him. Right. And so I'm going to predict a 21-17 Dolphins victory.
Okay. I fully expected you to take the Bills. I will say this. I've been very confident in every pick that I've made for the Dolphins this year until now. I really don't know. I think this is a coin flip game.
Yep.
As much as in some degree we don't know really what this Dolphins team is going to come with, we also really don't know what the Bills are going to bring because they have not been good lately. But I'm also going to take the Dolphins 23-20.
Look at you. All right.
Going for it.
Clean sweep.
Clean sweep. We're going to take it. All right. Again, so if you're watching live, stay in tuned. And for everyone else, thanks for watching X's and Omar. We'll be right back here next Wednesday at 1 o'clock on the SunSentinel.com.
Open up my wonderful computer here and update it. And you could search here.
All right, here we go.
This is our second week. Explain to people.
Yeah, so everyone who's still watching, thank you so much. This is X's and Omar Overtime. We know that so many of you are asking us questions during the show that we just can't get to all of them. So this is for you, special for you, if you're watching us live, that we'll get to some of your questions, whether they're on Twitter or here in the chat room.
We got one left over here.
And we got one left over there. We've got so many questions. Let me take some of the live ones that use the hashtag.
Okay.
Gary asks, what is the best way for the Dolphins to slow down the Bills' pass rush?
Talked about it. Bubble screens, misdirection.
Okay.
You can't have Mario Williams. I don't think Mario Williams is a great up-the-field pass rusher.
Okay.
But I also think that you need to run at the left side of their offensive line. I think it's a little bit weak. You got to get that play-action game so Buffalo can't pin their ears back and come after you. If you're at a deficit and you're trailing it's going to get ugly.
Right.
And I think you just have to have a balanced game and keep it into the fourth quarter.
All right. Omar asks, is the O-line stopping the development of Ryan Tannehill? Or are we just? I mean, I think after year 2, we kind of stopped.
Come
right?
on, man.
We
like,
can't. No more excuses, right?
We got 55 games in as an NFL starter. 55 from day 1 to game 55. We're dealing with the same issues. There's nothing that's changed. There's nothing that's gotten better. I think maybe his accuracy is his accuracy percentage, because he's throwing smaller passes, has improved. Comfort level, okay. Well, we gave him the read option offense. Is he running now? No. Execution in deep ball passing game or chunk plays.
Not getting any better.
Not getting any better. Third down efficiency. It's been the same since day 1. Fourth quarter play when you need to play big.
Not happening.
Not happening. Red zone. I in fact thought he would improve in the red zone, and I don't even think he's bad in the red zone. I just think that the unit as a team hasn't played well in the red zone. Would I like to blame Ryan Tannehill for some of his for the offensive line for some of his issues? Absolutely. I bang the table every year. Get that line better. Get that line better, because I know he's not that good of a quarterback, and he's horrible pocket presence. Like, if pressure's coming, he's not like Marino, where he could sidestep or step up into the pocket. When that pocket collapses, Ryan Tannehill rarely makes something happen.
Well, and let's look at it both ways. Yes, can a better O-line make Tannehill better? Yes. But you know what? Can a better Tannehill make this O-line look better? Yes, that's also
absolutely
true.
And I say this all the time, and people don't realize this. When the season that he took a franchise record 58 sacks, 13 of them, statistically, 13, that's nearly one every game, was on him. Just a bad play. And yeah, one of the sacks against, they just played the Patriots, was a coverage sack.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 close coverage sacks. So, yeah, but you know what? If you see nobody open, what does a good quarterback do? Especially a good quarterback with athleticism. He moves out the pocket a little bit,
right.
Buys his receiver times, goes with a hot read of you play street ball.
Right.
And sometimes that comes down the field, but the good quarterbacks do that, which explains why Ryan Tannehill is not a good quarterback.
Fair enough. Slick6971. Is it time to bring in Mosley or Phillips over Mitchell? Is Earl Mitchell
or Phillips over Mitchell? I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
Earl Mitchell has done nothing all year.
Really? You're right.
And
with Sue next to him, he should be making some sort of plays.
Earl Mitchell has done nothing all year. Absolutely nothing. I think he's got like 8 tackles. I mean, against the Patriots, he didn't even have a tackle. And they ran the ball. Where's the value of Earl Mitchell?
Right. I don't know.
People want to put pressure on Ndamukong Suh because he's not performing and not putting up good defensive stats. You know what Ndamukong Suh does? He feeds the players on the line with him, especially the guys who played next to him. Well, Wake was eating.
Yeah.
Earl Mitchell's certainly not eating. No. And he feeds the linebackers. Linebackers are just,
Right. Let's see. I lost. Here we go. Evan asks, the question is, does Jay Ajayi see heavy use this week?
He sees no use this week.
No use. Is he active?
No, I don't think so. The Dolphins made sure that I knew that he doesn't have to be active till next week, Wednesday.
All
That's
right.
when they have to make a decision. It's patience with Jay Ajayi.
Okay.
One, he wasn't that good in training camp to begin with. Maybe a lot of that has to do with injuries. 2, the role that they want to carve out for him is the third down back role. Right now, you've got Jonas Gray in there. Give Jonas Gray a week or 2 to prove that he can or can't do it and be that physical back that gets you those 3rd and 2s. And then if he can't, unleash Jay Ajayi.
You know, I think that we kind of forget that he was just like a 5th-round throw.
Oh, he was a talented back.
I don't know.
And he put up big numbers.
I don't know. I mean, I think the bigger, you
He
like to
had a
rail
high-
against
he
the
had a high
fantasy people.
average.
I know you like to rail against the fantasy people, but I think a part of this, that there was a little bit of buzz around Jay Ajayi, has something to do with the fact that there was a feeling among fantasy circles that Jay Ajayi was going to come in and be the end zone, be able to come in and pound in and steal like 8 touchdowns. And the fact is, he's still just a 5th-round pick that obviously has been hurt and really hasn't been that good.
I was surprised that he wasn't what I thought he would be when we got him to training camp. I expected a big physical back that pound the rock and get you hard yards. And in the final 2 exhibition games, he was that back against third-team NFL players. The question is, can he be that back against NFL players? The Dolphins are going to bring him in along slowly. And I don't think you're probably going to see him until somebody gets hurt.
Okay, let's take some of these and try to do them as quickly as possible. Jab Morris, can the Finns out-physical the Bills?
Yes, they can, because they did it last year, and it's pretty much the same Bills team.
This is the procrastinator. Do you think the Finns can run the ball versus Buffalo?
Yes, they can. Why couldn't they run the ball against Buffalo? They ran the ball like monsters against 2 of the more physical defensive lines in the NFL, in Houston and the Tennessee Titans. When the Dolphins can't run the ball is when they decide that they don't want to run the ball.
Mike asks, by not playing to Tannehill's strengths, do the Dolphins risk being in the same position as the 49ers, where they're pressing the reset button on their franchise QB?
Dolphins will not press the reset button on Ryan Tannehill probably until after the 2016 season. That's when his guaranteed money is finalized. And when I say reset, I mean trade him. Yeah. At some point, they're going to realize your team is only as good as the quarterback. And Ryan Tannehill's okay.
Yeah, and that's what the Dolphins are.
He's okay.
They're okay.
And you got to do better than okay. Ryan Tannehill is Andy Dalton. Either you got to put a team around him that's just a dominant running team with a great defense and a playmaker that can just hawk down bad balls. That's not the team that Ryan Tannehill has, which explains why they're 7-9, 8-8 all the time.
Habib, I like this one. Is Miami's linebackers have 0 sacks, 0 interceptions, and only 1 fumble. Is Jenkins too slow to blitz?
Yes.
Are we going to see more?
No, he's not a good blitzer.
All right, are we going to see more linebacker blitz because of no Wake?
Yes. Will it be effective? No.
No. Because of the talent of the linebackers.
The problem is I don't like the scheme. Cole Messi is okay at blitzing. He's a former college defensive end. He's okay at blitzing. The problem that you have is that he can't beat one-on-one assignments, and it's not surprising anybody when he blitzes.
Right.
That was the Kevin Coyle scheme. I pray that one day the Dolphins realize the speed package was actually a pretty good package. The 5-2 was actually a pretty good package. Go back to that, put 5 defensive linemen on the field, or put Derek Shelby on the inside and put Chris McCain on the outside on a 5-2 line, or create the speed package where, hell, Chris McCain is over there at right defensive end, and OV is roaming the field as the jack, just disguising what he does, where he's coming from. Try to create some damn confusion. You don't do that. Right now you're a 4-3 front, and if you're blitzing with Cole Messi. Oh, what a surprise.
You know, Jenkins really had issues covering both Gronk and Dion Lewis.
Who
which
doesn't
honestly
have issues covering Gronk?
Doing both of them. I thought he tackled well, though. I thought he had an all right game.
He's just okay this year. He hasn't taken that next step. I expected him to be better in coverage because he was pretty good in coverage last year, and it just hasn't. Tight ends have just gobbled up the Dolphins all year.
We kind of answered Doug's question last week. Lamar Miller's becoming a little bit better at pass blocking. Not great anyway, but still a little bit better.
Yeah, he's adequate.
Okay. Stu asks, who takes over as the leader of the defense with Cam out?
Cam really wasn't the leader anymore.
I know.
Who's the leader of the Dolphins
Is
defense?
it Rashad Jones?
Yes, it's probably Rashad Jones, maybe a little bit of Brent Grimes. Leader of the Dolphins defense, there is no such thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not Sue.
It's not Sue. It's not. There was no leader of the Dolphins defense. And probably might explain why they kind of are just okay.
We kind of talked about it a little bit last week. Is Jarvis Landry the leader of this team?
Yes, absolutely. Jarvis Landry is the alpha male of the team now. He's taken over Mike Pouncey's position and status as the biggest gorilla in the room. It just is. They have a people don't realize this, but they have a hierarchy in NFL locker rooms, and they're just like primates. We gravitate to biggest, toughest, roughest gorilla.
We did a little bit of patting on the back earlier in the show. I will say this. I think we need to pat each other on the back before the season started, because we talked about, the question was, what players who have never made it to a Pro Bowl would make it to a Pro Bowl this year? You said Rashad Jones, who's on pace, and I said Jarvis Landry, who's
having a
kind
pretty
of on
good
pace.
season.
He's having a good season.
I think there's more meat on the bone for Jarvis Landry.
I think there is too. But I almost put that a little bit more on
The coaching?
quarterback.
No, it can't be the quarterback because you could take him away. I think the Dolphins have to do a better job of moving Jarvis around. There are things that they've used in training camp where they get Jarvis isolated on the safety, on deep patterns, and I haven't seen that in the season yet.
Okay.
And it surprised me that I haven't seen it that much. I mean, what are you waiting for? We're at the midseason point on Sunday.
I don't know. I don't know. You're holding anything back. You can't hold anything back this week. Sarah, are we good? All right. Thanks so much for hanging on, joining with us, and we'll do this again next week. So hang on with us here on X's and Omar Overtime, and of course you can send us questions at any time during the week on Twitter. Just use the hashtag XOmar.
And if you missed any of the show, they are generally up around about 4 or 5 o'clock today. So be able to check the replay.
Great. Thanks for watching.
sunsentinel.com/XandOmar.
Which is probably where you are right now anyway.
Bookmark it.
Bookmark it.
Tell your friends.